Hey everybody, it's Alex Miller at Capnion here. In this video, I'd like to give a brief primer on the difficult topic of artificial intelligence regulation and talk about why it's difficult and thus far maybe not going so well. Why would you want to regulate AI? A great conversation piece is the deepfake. A deepfake is where I use AI to make a video of a famous person saying something exciting and scandalous that they did not say. I picked deepfakes as a conversation piece because they exhibit three pretty common things about different AI applications that come up. So, one, whoever I'm deepfaking has a right to their image and likeness. I shouldn't be using it without their permission. Second, did I get the raw material to create this thing that emulates video of them in a legitimate way, or did I illegally steal a bunch of images off Facebook or something like that in order to get the training data to create this thing? And then finally, I'm creating content that could be a danger to the public if it's somebody really important saying, hey, there's a fire in the theater, run for your life, and people get trampled on the way out. That's very bad. And a lot of nefarious actors could think of lots of nefarious ways to use fake video of a trustworthy famous person to fuel their nefarious deeds. So a lot of things that people are worried about in the AI world hit one of these three boxes, and there's some more drifting off into Skynet territory. Personally, AI is going to have to get regulated at some point. I'm certain of it. But it's been tough sledding so far. So the most recent thing you might have heard of in the news was California Governor Gavin Newsom vetoed a potential California state law regulating AI. And the concern was that it would just be very burdensome for businesses to comply with, and they would go someplace else. I think this is a real concern. Especially if you're one state, one smaller country, if you pass a law that puts a lot of burdens on doing something with AI and the next jurisdiction over doesn't have those burdens, everybody's just going to go next door. You might also look at the European case where a law has been passed. There were some interesting comments from SAP CEO Christian Klein just a few days ago about exactly this. So from a European perspective, if you're doing your AI work in Europe, you have a whole lot of rules you have to follow. You can just go to the United States to have people do it, and at the moment, it's much easier. So why are people so sensitive to these burdens on what they're doing with AI? AI is really hard, and some of the fanciest achievements are not easily replicated. And I think very impactful is if you're trying to train a large language model, you need tons and tons and tons of data to such a degree that a lot of the world's languages have not had enough written in them throughout all of history to have enough data. So you can't say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that for too long, or there's just not going to be a viable LLM at the end. Reddit, popular forum site, is a really good conversation piece. It's great material for training a large language model, and it's been used for this purpose. Asking people in certain veins to be really careful about what kind of data goes into an LLM for training and then what comes out is kind of like asking for a very high level of curation of Reddit, and that all of Reddit, in a sense, could be going into the LLM. If there's parts of Reddit you don't like, you have to figure out what they are and not put them in. And if you look at the history of Reddit, regulating Reddit, censoring Reddit, structuring discourse on Reddit is just a real awful rabbit hole. And a lot of work to ask somebody to do in addition to trying to train a really advanced artificial intelligence model. Then, if you get into the details of what is in some of these bills, there's some point at which, if you make a fancy enough AI system, you have to start doing audits, going through these safety protocols. So, if you're a smaller company trying to innovate, there's always some hazy line where if you're too successful, you pick up a whole lot of regulatory overhead. But I think for a layman, a great way to think about what people are implicitly being asked to do is you're the censor of Reddit now, and every once in a while the government is going to come by to audit your censorship of Reddit. That is not something that people are ever going to achieve flawlessly. And I think it's unfortunately very legitimate that lots of actors feel like we make some scary regulations that people are concerned maybe they can't even comply with them because in practice it just gets so textured and tactical and complex. Are you going to take your business elsewhere? Are you going to take your research project elsewhere? Especially because right now, if it's just scattered municipalities like California doing something, well, there are lots of other places to go. And in principle, all you need is computing power and to not have the government be chasing you around. This area is really important to watch. If you're a business leader, especially an executive at a bigger company, I almost feel like it's the whole story of what business should watch about AI, and that the technical progress is there. A lot of the blocking and tackling about getting these things to behave in an appropriate way that doesn't represent legal or regulatory trouble for something, or at least a PR black eye, getting all these other things besides the technical parts are really hard and really complex. So if you're interested in AI, unfortunately, regulation and the lack thereof is an ongoing conversation you really need to pay attention to.